Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show. I'm your host, Greg Bennett. And well, this episode was fun. I had the pleasure of inviting Sam Long, who's my neighbor about 400 meters down the road, to come and sit here in my studio, and we dissected his career, his life, his recent performances, the fact that he's now ranked number 4 in the world on the Professional Triathlete organization rankings, going into Collins Cup, the 70.3 world champs and Kona world champs, what his headset's like, what his mind's like. He's just absolutely extraordinary. We share some laughs in this one. It was a very relaxed interview that I think we're going to have plenty more. We both enjoyed each other's company tremendously. Just an incredibly mature head on a 25-year-old young professional athlete that's coming to terms with his new kind of status within the sport. I hope you enjoyed this one as much as I did. Just absolutely fantastic. But before we go on, thank you so much for sharing the show and also your feedback. I do appreciate that. I do read it, and it really does help me out. If you are enjoying it, I really appreciate if you can share it on your social platforms and just get the word out there. That is really helping. The show is growing, and thanks to you for sharing. I truly appreciate it. If you want to support the show, you can support the show's partners, Athletic Greens, Athletic Brewing. They've just come on board. Fantastic non-alcoholic beer company, just brilliant product. Hyper Ice have been with me for so long and just a great product. And of course, Form swim goggles. Just don't go swimming without them. All great brands, great companies. Go check them out. I hope you enjoy this one as much as I did. Just absolutely remarkable. And remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. A quick mention of the show's partners. These are all great companies and products that I use daily. If you want to support the show, you'd be doing me a massive favor by supporting these brands. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Brewing. Anyone will tell you that I'm someone who loves to have a beer, and there's always a beer in the fridge for me and or guests that pop in. But with kids, my work, and just my overall health, I can't, and I don't drink often. I can't afford to not be on my game, and I simply don't like the foggy feeling I get by drinking alcohol. So I've tried non-alcoholic beers, but I guess I'm a bit of a beer snob because none of them have measured up to a real craft beer experience that I like. But now with Athletic Brewing, I can have a high quality, just flavorful and award-winning craft beer. And it's only 50 to 70 calories per can. And these beers they fit into any occasion. So I don't have to compromise on my social life or choose between having a great beer and just keeping my clarity. So go ahead and check them out at athleticbrewing.com. That's athleticbrewing.com. Or you can find them at your local liquor store or bottle shop. I'll let you know. I'll be having one every single episode I record. They're that good. This episode is brought to you by Hyper Ice. Hyper Ice is my go-to solution for recovery and restoration. The handheld percussion therapy devices, the Normatec boots, and the vibrating rollers all release your deepest muscle tension and just aid your recovery. I own the Hypervolt Plus, I own the Hypervolt Go, the Normatec boots, and the vibrating rollers. And both my wife Laura and I use them every day before and after workouts and before bed. They're all just so easy to use at home. They're quiet, easy to charge, and have ready at any time. I encourage you to look after your body. Honestly, it's the only thing you get to keep for all of your life. All these Hyper Ice products are just simply brilliant. Get 10% off all Hyper Ice products using the exclusive Greg Bennett Show code GREG21 at checkout. Go to hyperice.com, that's hyperice.com, hyperice.com, and use code GREG21 at checkout. This episode is brought to you by my longtime partner and amazing company and brilliant product, Athletic Greens. I'm using Athletic Greens every day. Great taste, so quick and ready to go. Athletic Greens is a delicious blend of 75 superfoods and vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and a greens blend and more to support gut health, energy, and immunity and stress. I've also been doubling down on Athletic Greens vitamin D. A huge portion of the population are vitamin D deficient, myself included. And right now, Athletic Greens will give you a year's supply of vitamin D for free and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Do yourself a favor and sign up. It makes a great gift for a family member or a friend. So sign up now and get a free year of supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by visiting athleticgreens.com/Greg. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Greg. Greg. This episode is brought to you by Form. In my opinion, Form Smart Swim goggles are the biggest thing to hit the swimming world. With Form Smart Swim goggles, you can see all your key metrics while you're swimming: your distance, your pace, stroke rate, and heart rate. The swim data is displayed on the goggle lens, and you can customize the display to see the key metrics that you want to see. I couldn't believe it when I first tried them. They fit like normal, comfortable goggles, and the display is there, but it's not in the way. I consciously look at the lens to see my stroke rate and my pace and my heart rate and distance. If you're a pool swimmer or an open water swimmer, I encourage you to check these goggles out. Please go to formswim.com/Greg. Again, that is formswim.com/Greg and get $15 off the Form Smart Swim goggles at checkout, or use code GREG2021 at checkout. All right. Well, today's guest is spearheading the next generation of young, brash, superstar long course triathletes. He races without fear and he trains with just pure passion and love for the sport. His recent Ironman and Ironman 70.3 wins have just thrown him into the spotlight in the world of triathlon. Currently ranked 4th in the world on the Professional Triathlete organization. Unbelievable. His momentum is building, and one can sense that there's greater things on the horizon for this man. He's one of the great personalities of the sport, and it's just an enormous privilege to just have him on the show. So welcome to my studio, and thanks for joining the Greg Bennett Show, Mr. Sam Long. How are you, mate?
I'm amazing. It's so great to be here, Greg. I have to say I'm a huge fan of your podcast, and it's so obvious the effort you put into it and wanting to have the top podcast in triathlon. And truthfully, I think that's exactly what you have. I listened to almost all the episodes. The information is great, and I told you the other day, I don't think I could have made it in the sport until I'm on your podcast. And so it's just truly an honor to me.
Well, that's flattery goes a long way in my world. So thanks, mate. And, it's been a work in progress, but honestly, I've watched you for several years now, and it's just been, what I've loved is just this relentless pursuit of trying to be better. And you and I first communicated, probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And you reached out and just said, Greg, any chance we could sit on your deck and talk swimming? And what I loved about that is you're doing everything you can to try and figure out how to become better. And it doesn't matter if you're outsourcing to me, an old-time triathlete or whatever. You're trying to outsource and just find the answers to become better. And I love that. Is that something you're consciously doing all over the place, just outsourcing and trying to figure out how to become the best?
Yeah, of course. I mean, a big thing I always tell myself, which might come as a surprise to the listeners, is check the pride at the door, and don't be afraid to admit that you don't know something, and that you can always learn more from the greats of the sport. And so, yeah, I'm outsourcing with coaching and nutrition and leaning on sponsors and leaning on guys like you who have a wealth of experience, especially in the swim. And the swim's been tricky because, as you probably know, there's 8 million people that want to give me advice, and 7,999,000 of those people give wrong advice, or just advice that, I mean, they might be a 140 per 100-yard swimmer, and they're messaging me, oh, hey, you suck at swimming. I have all the tips to improve your swim. And I'm swimming 115 per 100 yards, which isn't a terrible pace, but it's better still than most of the population can do.
Mm-hmm. No, well, mate, you're showing that. I mean, you're swimming like still outstanding in terms of swimming, in terms of trying to be the best triathlete in the world, which I'm sure, I don't want to speak for you, but is, I'm sure, your goal. and it's kind of like, that is the one area that you can find a few minutes in. And for me, if I'm a 25-year-old making his way in the world of triathlon, it's exciting to know how much improvement you do have there, and you will find it. I have no doubt in my mind. To me, that must be exciting for you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just exhilarating to know that I'm ranked 4th in the world, and I still view myself as a developmental athlete. I still see so many gains, and with my coach Ryan Bolton, we still see so many gains. And people might think even on the bike, oh, I've reached my max potential. I still see a lot of progress to be made on the bike, and it's just that progress that excites me. But most of all, I mean, if I could swim 3 minutes faster in a 70.3, it would be game changing.
Yeah. Oh dear. That's phenomenal. I had your coach Ryan Bolton on the show probably 6 months ago, and he just he spoke about you with just such high regard. Like he's the kind of training you guys are doing really resonated with me. We really enjoyed that chat because you're doing such consistent, solid work every day. And it's the old Arthur Lydiard model of training, which I've always loved, where easy doesn't mean slow. You're still you're getting some good miles in. Heather Jackson's another one with that kind of a mindset, and Ben Hoffman, and all of you guys with that. Easy doesn't mean slow; it just means easier. You can still be moving fairly fast. They're not one and the same, right?
Exactly, yeah. And I guess it's a slightly less periodized approach than you see a lot of athletes do now, right? Where their easy miles might be 8 or 8:30 miles, say running, and their fast miles are 5:30. And for us, we still do those fast miles, but the easy miles are more like 7:30 or 7-minute pace, which, it's just about building that engine, and it's been working with Ryan.
Yeah, it was funny. I remember running up on one of the trails here, and I hate to bring the show back to myself, but it's talking about what we are. And my easy pace would get down when I got really fit. It was down around that 6-minute mile pace, and it's just easy. It wasn't hard. Didn't mean slow, right? I mean, 6 minutes is moving. But I remember having one of my peers, Craig Walton, who was probably one of the greatest swim bikers I think I ever went up against, Australian guy, and he was living here in Boulder with us. And he said, Greg, were you doing speed work yesterday? When I saw you run past my house, I was like, oh God, it felt so good because I was doing my easy run. And it wasn't to be cocky. It was like, no, that's just how fast you can start to go if you do the right training. So it's incredible stuff, mate. But I want to move on because, firstly, did you walk or drive up to my house today?
I knew you were going to ask me that. And I thought, he's going to ask me that. And to be a good athlete, I should walk up to the house. But then
no,
I still drove.
Mate, I don't know what the temperature is out today, but it feels like it's about 100 degrees here in Boulder, which is, what is that, about 40 degrees Celsius. And I'm glad you didn't drive up. So listeners, Sam actually lives about 400 meters away from where we are down the road. Would you call it 400? You run probably that a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly 400. 400, maybe 450 meters.
Yeah. And we walk past your house nearly every evening after dinner. We used to do the trails, but we're a little bit not going on them at the moment after a rattlesnake bite in our family. But we go down past your house. We loop around. I'm always looking in the windows to see if you're there.
Yeah. Now I'll be looking in through your windows to see if you're here every time I run by.
That's awesome. What training did you get up to this morning?
Yeah, so Mondays are always my easier day, which as we'll find with Ryan is never, like we just said, super easy. It was a ride up to Jamestown, which is 30 miles. It took me like an hour 30, 200 watts or so, and then just did a 4-mile run on the trails right by the house. So I technically already have ran up to your house today.
I like that. I love it's like the more I remove myself from racing, just how it's mind-boggling when an easy day is a 30-mile ride, but you got to remember up to Jamestown. For people who don't know, in Colorado, there's a great ride up to a little town called Jamestown. And what is that, about an 8-mile climb in it?
Yeah, it's pretty much
13
miles.
kilometers, 8 miles, and a great, beautiful ride. But I love when that's your easy day, and then another 4-mile run, which is 6.4K, just on your recovery days.
Exactly. And the best part is Greg offered me a beer here when I came in, but I still have to swim. And I said, a beer would have been pretty nice, but I don't think I should have a beer before I swim.
I do have some Athletic Brewing beer up here, which is non-alcoholic. If you ever want to try a nice beer, it's the beer you have when you're not having a beer. If you ever want to try that, you should.
Yeah, those are terrific, actually.
Yeah, well, would you like me to run up and get you one? We could have a hazy IPA. All right, give me one sec. Sam, I want you to carry on while I go and get this one by telling us about, starting with the last few months. It's really been outstanding. And I want to take you through, firstly, and you're talking to the listener right now, because I'm going to run up and grab us a couple of Athletic Brewing non-alcoholic beers. But I want you to tell us about that race in St. George, because I think that, I know you've won races in the past, but that race was something special. So tell us about that. I'm going to bolt and come straight back.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So St. George, obviously I was second. It's gone down as one of the big battles in triathlon. I was second behind Lionel Sanders, a longtime idol, and now a big rival of mine. And what's unfortunate is with my age, actually at the time, shortly after I got second, and I thought, I didn't win this race, and I was hard on myself, and I didn't win this race, and therefore this race wasn't an accomplishment. And it was only after I sat down and had some time to process that I realized that was the greatest race I've had so far in my career. Being able to go head to head with one of the true idols of the sport, with someone I've looked up to, and with someone who's won that race so many times, and to earn the respect of not only Lionel Sanders, but also sort of the upper echelon of the pros. And ultimately what that race realized is that, yeah, I guess it told me, oh, I have what it takes to be at the top. But it also made me realize, like, I can beat Lionel and I can be better than that. And that I shouldn't settle for just a performance like St. George, and that what can I do to be above that and be beyond that? And so I think it completely shifted my perspective and allowed me to reach a new level of performance going forward.
It's incredible, isn't it, when you get that little, I don't know, you want to pat on the back, or that little bit of an oomph that just says, whoa, I do belong here. I am, it's okay to dream big. You get that little bit of, it's okay. I actually think that the world is possible for me here.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. It's like, until that moment, it's like, oh, you maybe have dreams of winning Kona, or I have dreams of winning Kona, but it's like, it's exactly that. It's a dream, and it's one of those things where I wake up and I'm afraid to tell anyone, and now I'm not afraid to tell people because it feels tangible and it feels realistic, and maybe not this year, but it feels realistic by the time I retire.
For anybody that didn't see some of your YouTube footage or Lionel's footage of the end of that race, it was really quite an outstanding, it was one of the great, I really enjoyed watching the end of that. The two of you just neck and neck, head to head. You ran back up onto his shoulder. And I was like watching going, just go. Like, don't go onto his shoulder, go with everything you have. I was like almost screaming, like, go, go, go. Did that come across, or were you trying to do that, or was it just get to his shoulder? Was that the goal?
Yeah, to be honest, I probably did the exact opposite. I probably had 3 situations I could have done, and I chose the worst possible situation for winning the race. I either, like you said, I should have just surged right past him while I had the momentum, and that potentially would have broken him there. Although it's Lionel, I don't think it would have.
No, he's a tough man, yeah.
He's a tough man. Or the second better option might have been to run up right behind him and sort of wait and then make a push. But instead I ran right up to his shoulder and sort of said, like, let's go mano-y-mano here, and let's just see, like, who's better at the end, and let's throw strategy out the window. Let's throw tactics out the window. Let's just see who's the stronger person. And I don't regret doing that. I'm glad I did it because it made it so awesome. And it was just this battle of wills and running next to him, as opposed to, I mean, if I had sat on him and maybe waited to kick, I could have watched him and seen his body language and seen as he was accelerating, and maybe I would have won the race. I mean, maybe, but I lost the race in the best possible way.
No, you gave us, it was a tremendous show from both of you. It was an outstanding show. And for someone like myself that now sits on the sideline and just loves to be entertained, I got my value for money on that race. And and like you said, maybe if you'd sat behind him, it wouldn't have been quite as good a show. Maybe if you'd surged right away from him, it would have been like, oh, Sam just ran straight past him. It wasn't that exciting. It was actually kind of that head-to-head is really quite special. Do you have a sprint finish? Is that something you're going to work on in the future here?
Oh God, Greg, come on.
Let's crack open a beer while we
crack this open. My sprint finishes need some big work. I'll be honest, because of course at Texas 3 weeks before that, I got out sprinted by Ben Canute.
Right. Well, Ben has a powerful sprint. I've seen him with Terenzo Bozzone at the island. Like he's got a real kick on him. Yeah,
he has an amazing kick, and he came past me, and it was like 4 turns in the final 400 meters, and he's a smaller guy than me, and I tried, and so I lost that sprint, and then I got out sprinted by Lionel, and then 5 weeks after that, Tulsa, even though I was having a terrible race, Chris Lieferman out sprinted me and beat me by 2 seconds at the finish line.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just going, I don't think I've ever won a sprint finish. So,
well, you're going to have to just sprint from further out. Your sprint might be more like the 2 mile mark to go all out effort. How fast can I run? I mean, it was funny. I had an okay finish, but nothing like a Simon Whitfield, Bevan Doherty, Jan Frodeno. These guys all had next level. But I remember outrunning Bevan Doherty once at the Dallas race, which was a big money race at the time. And I crossed the line and I'm like, I beat you in the sprint. He said, Greg, you went with 1K to go. That's not a sprint. I'm like, in my mind, that was a sprint because I had to go from that far out to have any chance. So maybe that's something you got to have in your back pocket.
Exactly.
We shouldn't be telling everybody right now on your.
You can't call it my strategy, but I mean, it's no secret with my coaching, with how I'm coached and how I train. At this moment in my career, I don't really focus on the sprint finish. I focus more on just how can I have the biggest engine possible. And I just find a sprint finish probably with a mile to go. What can I do in the final mile? And hopefully in a 70.3, if I at St. George, say this year it's slightly downhill, if I could run 440 that last mile, I would call that a sprint for me.
Well, that's it. St. George is the World Championships. I mean, that's on your radar now. Is that? I mean, we're doing this about 10 days out from Collins Cup. It'll air actually about 5 days before the Collins Cup. So I do want to talk about that in a moment. But 70.3 Worlds, St. George. You have good feelings for a race, for a course, and I think that's always a nice thing to have going into a race. Like you have this. I performed well on this kind of a course. I mean, is that the all-in button for you? 70.3 Worlds.
Yeah, I've decided for this year that's my A goal of the year. It's my A race of the year, and that was not an easy decision with Kona. Kona's got all this sparkle and glamour, and it's a great race. But at 25, I decided to focus on 70.3 Worlds. Again, I know the course. I love the course. I have great vibes at that race. After the race in May with Lionel, I just said, let's go in for 70.3 Worlds this year. Let's see what I can do. I actually, 2 years ago, I thought I was too slow to even race 70.3. So all I ever did was Ironmans. And it's been an amazing process to find out, whoa, I can actually go fast at the shorter distances. And so I'm really excited for it. And I think it'll only make me better at Kona in the future. And it's thinking more long-term rather than short-term. I mean, sure, it'd be fun to put all my eggs in Kona this year. But
you're doing Kona, right?
I'll still do Kona, of course. But yes, it's more just my training now the last 4 weeks has been more 70.3 focused. And it's going to continue to be that way.
Yeah.
I still train high volume, so I'm still at 30 to 32 hours a week training for 70.3. So I'll still be ready for Kona, but I just can't wait for St. George. And they modified the run course even, and it suits me even more. It's now 2 laps. It's so a key component there is you have to run down that steep downhill twice.
You like the downhill running?
Well, I love the downhill running, yes.
Yeah, you're a man of my own heart. Yeah.
I particularly love it because then you have to run back uphill.
Oh, so you like any hills, up and down?
Any hills. Yeah. I'm the man of the hills.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, how can I not be? I grew up around here.
Yeah.
I run Magnolia all the time. That's actually been my key thing is running Magnolia and running the hogback trails around here. And so I know a key part of that race is people will run that first downhill well, and then their quads are going to just give out on that uphill. And so, yeah, I've just been envisioning that nonstop. And then, of course, the finish is now on a steep downhill. There's that slight grade.
Yeah, I know the slight grade back into town there, yeah.
I think if I had the same situation on that downhill, on that steep downhill finish, I would have got Lionel. So.
Oh, mate. Well, I think what's interesting about all the timing of all this too, though, is you raced 70.3 in St. George, excuse me. Then it was only a few weeks later and you were doing Ironman Coeur d'Alene, where you absolutely annihilated that course. One of the greatest performances we've seen, definitely in the US, probably do you think that having that sort of 70.3 really triggered you for that performance in Coeur d'Alene, where you broke the course record, you went an 8:07? I mean, maybe with 70.3 Worlds at 3 weeks before Kona, it actually is a nice little press, without putting more on your plate.
No, it's exactly right. It's exactly right. And so, to be honest, I kind of just told the world, 70.3 Worlds is my focus to take pressure off myself for one at Kona, because you rarely see people go well there their first year if they put too much pressure on themselves. And so it served that function of it's taken pressure off myself. But with the data I have, I actually know that it's setting me up better for Kona, because I build up that speed. I'm still training 30 to 32 hours a week. And then I just get a few weeks and I just kick in that diesel engine. And then it's kind of like I have everything. I have the speed, I have the diesel, and it makes it this complete athlete for a short window of time. And so, yeah, I'm experimenting with what's worked in the past and with the data I have.
It's incredible, mate. And on that, I mean, we're kind of summarizing just your last few months, because it has been an incredible last few months. And your most recent event, the Boulder 70.3, hometown boy, hometown race, smash another course record. I mean, I've done that race, and I know the course adjusts a little bit, but still, a 3:37 for a 70.3 at altitude, dry, hot. It was smoky as hell. We had all that smoke.
Couldn't even breathe.
We couldn't. The air quality index, the AQ, I didn't even know what that was before that past weekend, because the air quality here in Colorado was so bad. like seriously, we were outside just walking around going, and you guys were racing in it. I mean, that performance, all-time best. I mean, remarkable.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, truthfully, it was better than my St. George performance. My power on the bike was higher, which
at altitude
it was higher, and it's flat. So my normalized power was even higher, which is really saying something because St. George has a way of your normalized power gets quite high and your average power is somewhat low. And my average and normalized power were higher here at Boulder at altitude on flats where I'm in the TT position the whole time. And then a 112 on the dirt of altitude and smoke. I mean,
and it's not, that's a kind of a, it's not, and the dirt around the res there, it's kind of graded quite often. It's not easy running, is it? I mean,
yeah, if you look at this course on paper, especially the run, you say, oh, that run course is going to be blazing fast, under 109s, no problem. And it's every year I do it, it's my slowest run of the year.
It's hilly, hot, altitude. The footing is hard, big rocks and graded type stuff that you got to try and find your footing and everything. It's not easy.
Yeah, I think there's at 4 U-turns over the course of it. So it really adds up. And I mean, to go 3:37, and I mean, I had a terrible swim. I swam like 28 minutes and 30 seconds, which is just, it's so bad. I don't even know what to think about it. I just had I don't even know. I just had a terrible swim. And so to then be able to pull it back together after
a 154 bike, was it?
154 bike.
So what, getting a bit, geeky here. What was your kind of watts per kilo for that whole 90 kilometers?
Yeah. So watts per kilo would be right about 4.5.
Nice. Okay. So it's fairly consistent. I mean, that's still at 4.5 watts per kilogram. Mate, what did you go out in? The first 10K, was it like 5 watts per kilogram?
I actually paced it quite even.
Did you really? Yeah.
I knew they would try and stay ahead of me. The other guys would try and stay ahead of me at the start, but I knew if I was pacing it, that I would still sort of catch them, and then that once I caught them, they would be tired, and that I would just maintain the pace. And so, yeah, I mean, the normalized power was 346 for the whole bike.
Wow.
And it's a course that suits a bigger guy, and so the smaller guys like Sam Appleton out front had a little bit of a disadvantage. He might have been a little bit.
He's an outstanding athlete.
But outstanding athlete.
He's brilliant. Yeah.
I mean, and he biked 158, which is still brilliant on this course.
Anything under 2 hours, anything, and a little less at altitude and all of that. But it's incredible. I'm glad I had my career when I did, because you guys are really changing the game. It's really quite something, and it's special to watch. All right, so you cross the line in Boulder. Family, friends. Was that a really special moment in your career to date?
Yeah, it was awesome. Just finishing that one was really special. It was a huge goal always to win this race. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, actually at that race, it was cool to win this race in another reason, because leading into that race, I actually had a pretty rough week in terms of stress and just life stress. And I just had so much going on, and my mind actually wasn't quite in the right place like it normally is for a race. And I remember running and thinking like, God, can this race just never end? Because like, it's calm out here. It's calm winning this race, and it's calm like just being in the hurt box, and I'm going to finish this thing. And then it's like, I'm going to have to talk with sponsors and fans, and then all my stress of life is going to come back. And I didn't want it to end. It was just this weird feeling. And then of course it felt great to cross the finish line, but it was one of these moments where normally we're stressed, or I'm stressed to race, and I'm anxious to race, and I worry, oh, what's going to happen? But this time I knew I was prepared. I knew I'd done the work. I knew I was ready. And it was like, I want to race to escape the rest of my life.
Wow. That's pretty deep, mate. I mean, I love that, because it's kind of to even have the realization while you're racing, that this is actually a beautiful place to be. I feel free right now. I mean, what are some of those stresses that you're coping with? Is it the sponsors and that kind of stuff? Or,
yeah,
I mean, is that a lot? I mean, because you're 25, this is new. A lot of this taking on some of those pressures. Is that?
Yeah. So I'll just be totally honest about it. A lot of it is dealing with sponsors, and it's in a great way, but it's just, this is my first time now that I'm dealing with big dog contracts and big dog sponsorships and the negotiation and the process, and I'm doing it all without an agent. And so it's just, I've kind of been thrown in the deep end all of a sudden this year, and it's completely amazing and completely exciting at the same time. But it's just figuring out, I mean, there's a lot of tactics that go on with getting the right sponsorships. And yeah, it's been a lot for me. And then, phone calls every day basically. And it's just
and
been
then damn podcast interviews
and podcast interviews and all sorts of stuff and managing the YouTube channel and having the stress of having to race Jan in 2 weeks. And I just sort of, I guess, felt the weight on my shoulders a little bit as I'm adjusting to that and learning to deal with it. And so it was nice to just, I know how to race. I've done races. I've won races this year. And that was what was familiar to me, while like my regular life is what's not familiar right now.
So who's on your team to help you stay grounded with that and give you some perspective? Because sometimes you do get caught up and dollar numbers are thrown at you and what is my value? What is my worth? I don't know, like what's everyone else getting paid? There's all of that goes on, but do you have a team? I mean, you said you're managing yourself, but have you got somebody to share the burden with a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still have a huge team around me. I mean, first and foremost would be both my parents. It's no secret. Down the street, I live with them. I live in their basement when I'm here in Boulder. And my dad's a businessman. He's a banker. And so he's great with the contracts. He's great with just common business sense, which is negotiation and all that. And then my mom's a therapist. So she's there for, I guess, just the comfort and oh man, I have to get my mind in the right spot and all that. And then my girlfriend's been great as well. And Ryan's been great. Ryan Bolton, my coach. He has experience as a top athlete. And so all of them really. And then, I mean, lots of athletes. I'm happy to be connected with Ben Hoffman, Heather Jackson, Sean Waddy-Watkins has helped me some. So yeah, again, it's been the same thing, right? I've had to just reach out and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm used to signing deals for free product and maybe a $1,000 bonus if I win. And all of a sudden now I'm going to actually be making a living doing this. And I have to figure that out. And doesn't it
happen quick? It happened. I can hardly remember being your age and thinking about it. It was basically 25 years ago. I'm W. And I remember being on the world tour and I suddenly was getting a little bit of prize money. And it was like, what do I do with it? And I have my accountant going, Greg, you better invest it somewhere. You're going to, you want to put it here and you want to do it. I'm like, what? And it is a little bit, because you're suddenly in it. It's like it suddenly happens.
Yeah. And that's what's so funny, Greg, because when I won my first race, I thought, everything's going to happen right away. And I thought, I won that first 70.3 in 2019. And I thought, all of a sudden I'm going to have sponsorships and I'm going to feel like I made it and I'm going to feel like I can make a living doing this. And then nothing happens. And then nothing continues to happen. And then you get used to nothing happening and you go, I'll win these races and I'll do good things and, nothing will really happen. Small things will happen. And then all of a sudden it's like the momentum builds to a certain point and then your email inbox is full. Every morning you wake up and it's like, whoa, all of a sudden you're thrown into the deep end and have to figure it out. And it's amazing.
Well, there's a lot on your shoulders now. I mean, let's skip on to this next part because the Collins Cup, as you mentioned it, I mean, you're the number one US, you're somewhat of almost a team leader because we have captains already with, but you're coming in as saying, hey, the US have a strong chance of doing this. Now, before you answer that, let me give a quick explanation of what the Collins Cup is for people that don't know. The Collins Cup is basically triathlon's version of the Ryder Cup in golf. So in golf, you have the Europe versus the US. In this version, we have Europe versus the US versus internationals, which is Australia, New Zealand, Canada, everybody else. And what it is all match racing, which is quite phenomenal. And what we have is 6 men, 6 women in each team. And so we're going to end up with 12 races total, where basically 3 guys are going to race each other, 1 from Europe, 1 from US. And the captains are going to choose who you each get to race against. Now, each person that wins a race collects more points. If you beat somebody by more than 2 minutes, I think you get an extra half point, 4 minutes, an extra point, and 1.5 minutes is 6 points. So it's a game of chess. It's a game of picking the best team you can to cover the 2 kilometer, 80 kilometer, 18 kilometer. But then it's also this, who do we line up? Who do we want to go? I mean, you're probably one of America's best chances of a win.
Right, absolutely.
So do we put you against a Jan Frodeno, who at the moment I think we could probably agree has been the best in the world?
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
And people can argue whether he's the greatest of all time or whatever else. He's a phenomenal athlete and a great man. Who do you choose to race for? If the captains come to you and say, Sam, who do you choose? Do you go for the definite win or one where you feel like, okay, I can have a good shot? Or do I go against Jan Frodeno and try and take him out this time?
Yeah, I want to race Jan. I don't think he's got too many years left, and I'd like nothing more than than the closest seat possible to see how he performs, to see what that true level of performance is like, and to see how close I can get, and to put it all out there and say, okay, I mean, if it's a humbling experience, great. Then it's just going to motivate me to work hard. And if I can go out and do something nobody else has done this year or in the last few years even, then it would put me in history already at 25, which would be amazing. And so, yeah, I almost don't feel pressure actually in a way if I were to race him, because I'm expected to lose if I race him. And I do everything possible not to lose. And it's just like, I don't know, if you go up against a god and beat a god, what does that make you almost, right?
I love it. I love it. A quick mini break to remind you of the show's incredible partners. You can get 10% off all Hyperice products using the exclusive Greg Bennett Show discount code GREG21 at checkout. Go to hyperice.com and use code GREG21. A quick reminder to do yourself a favor and sign up to Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens also makes a great gift for any family member or friend. So sign up now and get a free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by visiting athleticgreens.com/Greg. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Greg. If you want to see all your key metrics like your pace, distance, stroke rate, and heart rate while you swim, you need the Form Smart Swim goggles. Go to formswim.com/Greg. That's formswim.com/Greg and get $15 off. Or you can use code GREG2021 at checkout. If you enjoy a beer but want to keep your clarity, stay on your game, then you have to try Athletic Brewing. I was just simply blown away by how good they taste. Just a true craft beer. Go check them out at athleticbrewing.com. That's athleticbrewing.com. You know what's funny is I look at this now, and when they announced this whole thing, 2 years ago, whatever it was like Team Europe, no one's going to match Europe, no one's going to match them, right? But now, after the COVID year we've had, I feel like the US have actually come out swinging. I feel like with yourself, Rudy Vonberg, obviously Ben Canute, just a powerhouse, Matt Hansen, Chris Leiferman, who you mentioned earlier, and Justin Metzler. I mean, that's a solid group of men. And then the women, they've just added Taylor Knibb, Katie Zafiris, both Olympic medalists, and then obviously a strong list of women, like we mentioned earlier, Heather Jackson, Skye Munch, Jackie Herring, and of course, Chelsea Sodaro, who is an interesting one, who's 4 months. Is it 4 months? She just had a baby 4 months ago, and just incredible athlete, turning herself around. That's a powerful team. I actually think exciting. The US have something to go to really do well here. What do you think?
I completely agree. I mean, I think the tide of triathlon is rising again in the United States. And
yeah.
It's exciting to see. And of course, if we looked at Ironman, we couldn't forget about T.O. and Ben Hoffman.
Absolutely.
And I even think it would have been cool if they had picked Andy Potts for this team. I mean, he's still brilliant at 45 years old, I think he is, or 44.
Yeah.
And I know Team Europe, I actually sense some complacency in their team. I can just sort of read it already through the post. They think they're going to win no matter what. And they do. They have the best team. But if you go in thinking you're the best team, and if you go in thinking you're going to win easily, then often that doesn't always end up being the case. And I know because I've spoken with pretty much every single one of the Team USA members, we're all fired up about it. We're all fired up because we have something to prove. I mean, triathlon was started in the United States, and frankly, we haven't done much in a long time. Of truly winning an international stage. Of course, we did on the Olympics on the women's side. I mean, we got the gold medal in 2016, so that was amazing. But our ITU guys, and girls, they're stepping it up too. And
the momentum's there, isn't it?
The momentum's there, and it's awesome to see Morgan Pearson too, and Kevin
McDowell, his race. My goodness!
Oh, it's just and Taylor Knibb. She ripped everyone apart on a road bike at 70.3 Boulder. It was awesome, and so. Yeah, it's an exciting place in the United States right now.
I couldn't agree more with what you say. I feel like in all aspects of the sport, because I've been, this show I've been doing for almost 2 years now, and there's been some versions in it where I'm like, what's going on with the US men? What's going on? And now we're just starting to see this snowball effect with guys like yourself, Kevin McDowell, who I mentioned, and Morgan Pearson leading the ITU. And then they just did incredibly well again on the weekend here in Montreal with the team relay. just now so many names popping up, men and women, that it's a great time to be a part of triathlon, I think. And you coming in somewhat as a team leader or whatever, highest ranked in that group, it must feel pretty special. I mean, looking at Team Europe, it is the women's field on paper is outstanding.
Yeah, the women's field especially is it's next level.
I mean, we got Danielle Riff, Annie Hug, Lucy Charles Barclay, Holly Lawrence, Katrina Matthews, and now Emma Pallant, who's going to be on the show next week.
Oh, awesome. We've been swimming together. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty powerful. And obviously taking nothing away from the men. They're, I mean, Kona Ironman world champions and 70.3 world champions we have there with Sebastian Kienle and Patrick Langer and Gustav Eden and Jan Frodeno and Joe Skipper, obviously, and Daniel Beckergaard. That's a pretty solid team. But I do think the US will have them a good match. What about the internationals? What do you think? When we have a decent team, but have they got the depth there to make it happen? To give you guys a shake?
We'll see about team internationals. Yeah, they've got some good guys. It's going to be quite exciting to see the Aussies race and the Kiwis race because of COVID, the Aussies have only raced themselves for 2 years, so none of us really know exactly where they stand. And I'm actually not sure they're going to be able to make it out of their country still. But
we don't know. Yeah,
I know. And
Sam Appleton's over here.
Yeah. And Sam, obviously, we know where his form is at. But, like Kyle Smith and some of those guys.
Yeah.
I still think all the teams are good, and I mean, we've got the best 18 men and women in the world pretty much here. So
they've done well.
Yeah, the PTO is amazing, and obviously we can have complaints about the PTO, but they're not even really complaints. They're small criticisms of
we can
how
talk
can
about
we make this slightly better. And that's the thing I think outsiders don't always understand when the pros or the people in the sport talk and we say like, oh, the PTO should be doing this or could be doing this. We're talking of we just want to make it better, but that really all of us think this organization is amazing for the sport and how they're growing it. And I mean, honestly, the money they're putting into it, and I mean, they're bringing triathlon into the limelight, and there's no doubt Daytona was by far the best event last year. The coverage was amazing. Everything about that event was amazing.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's really great that the PTO have stepped up. And I think, every now and then we shake our heads of the point system or how does that work in terms of the rankings and that. But we have some very smart people behind the numbers and the math, and that's interesting. I think also what makes this race unique is that it's shorter than a 70.3. So when you look at Europe and their Ironman champions.
Exactly. Yep. This is an important point.
Yes. And then you look at Team US and you watch someone like a Ben Canute just tear up Escape from Alcatraz and win it for the 4th time in a row. The amount of power that guy has is insane. I'd love a Ben Canute on my team going in here. I mean, the guy's a weapon over that shorter distance, right?
Absolutely. Exactly. And I mean, I know Joe Skipper, so I can say this, but he's not too much of a threat over 70.3 and even shorter. And he's not the same at that distance as he is at Ironman.
What about Patrick Langer? What do you know about him with the 70.3s? Is he pretty good over that?
A little bit hard to say. I mean, he's certainly better at Ironman, I think, but we'll see how his short course speed shows up here. And but yeah, I think that's what we see. The US team is predominantly 70.3 guys, and especially specialists. I happen to do Ironman as well and have done pretty well, but Ben Canute and Rudy are straight up 70.3 specialists. And we've got that. And of course we have Daniel Picard on Team Europe. I think despite him being a wild card, I think that guy, I mean, he's leading the charge just like me over there.
Yeah.
He is as real as it gets and as fast as it gets.
What was it, Dubai 70.3 or Abu Dhabi? Wait, there was one in earlier.
Yeah, Dubai
he just smoked that, didn't he?
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, it's going to be fun. I'm really excited because I got an announcing gig that I'm very excited. So I'll be flying over there probably around the same time you are. We should check if we're on the same flights.
Oh, excellent.
But that'll be fun because they've got a big announcing team. They've got 8 people that they're going to rotate through. So it's not the same. You don't have to listen to Greg Bennett for, 8 hours or whatever it is of racing. You can have all these great experts around the world coming in and sharing their advice. So I think it's going to be an incredible weekend. So that's in, once this show comes out in 5 days' time. So amazing. What the goal of today for me personally was to really just to get to know you a little bit more. Obviously I've read about you, I've followed your YouTube and I've watched you sort of progress, but I figure let's rewind the clock a little bit here and let's go back to the beginning. You grew up in Boulder, but when did you sort of fall in love with the sport of triathlon, and how did that all happen?
Yeah, of course. Great question. It's kind of funny. I grew up in Boulder and I didn't know what triathlon was till I was 16, which is like, I don't know, what was I doing? I guess I was too busy doing every other sport on the planet to learn about what something called triathlon was. And I never trained seriously as a kid, but I called it fun. And I look back and I think that was a pretty awesome background to come up in. And yeah, my parents introduced me to all the sports. So my first love was downhill skiing. My parents got me on skis when I was 2 years old. And that's just what I fell in love with on the winters. And we have a house up in Crested Butte, which is just a beautiful place. And it sits up at 10,000 feet. And so I actually think that was my first introduction to endurance sports, because once I became about 8, I would ski from 9 till 4. Every single day we would go up there, and I wouldn't even stop for lunch because I wanted to get as many runs in as possible. And I would do that at 10,000 feet. And it just accumulated this huge, huge love for the outdoors and pushing my body and taught me that I love to be outside. And I mean, if I were to put myself through one of those ski days I did back then, I would be sore for a week now. I'm not even kidding. I mean, it would be...
Says one of the fittest men in the world right now.
It would be crazy, you know? And then my dad, same thing. He got me into mountain biking up in Crested Butte. And I hated riding my mountain bike uphill. All I wanted to do were the fun downhills. So as a 10 or 12-year-old, I thought the best method to do that was to ride the uphills as fast as possible. So I would just race up all the uphills. And I remember I would drop all my dad's friends who were serious Boulder cyclists. You know, they'd race Cat 3 or whatever, and I'd be dropping all of them. And they were all like, at that point, oh, you got to get into the Tour de France, or you got to get this guy on a cycling team, or blah, blah, blah. So then I started doing the local hill climbs, but again, no real training, just fun, what I called fun. But after school, I would always go and I would just race up Old Stage as fast as I could, do it 4 or 5 times.
Old Stage, by the way, what percent? It's a brutal climb.
Yeah, 10% or so.
Yeah, at least, right? I mean, and it kind of has a bit of a step up. You get a little reprieve, and then it's like, oh, go, finish it off.
Yeah, it's a tough climb. And I remember I would try and do it like 4 times after high school. Yeah, I mean, I must have been 13 or something, and I'd try and do that 4 times. And no coach, I would just come up with whatever I could do on my own. No power meter, just the thrill of like, can I make myself hurt or breathe hard? And again, I didn't even know what training was. I just thought training was the definition of fun. And so I just wanted to get as much as I could. And then I played football. I was actually a big football player, tight end. And
well, you're 6'4". You would have been a fantastic footballer. Yeah, tight end is a great position. For anybody that doesn't know, by the way, can I just excuse me for interrupting?
Of course. No.
A tight end is, if you not from the US, if you followed rugby, is probably like a breakaway, sort of on the side of the scrum. They can play kind of defense or offense. I think it's the best position in football, to be honest.
It is. Oh, you got to do everything. You got to block. You got to catch. You have to know the offense. All of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I would play football in the fall, and then I also played soccer. So I would do football practice straight to soccer practice. So I would do 2 a days, and then I would ride my bike in between. I rode my bike everywhere as a kid. In fact, I didn't even get a license till I was 18, because in this town I thought, why in the world would I want to go through driver's ed? I'll just ride my bike. And so I actually loved racing my friends. Oh, hey, let's go meet at Glacier for ice cream or whatever. And I'd say, oh, I'll bike there. I'll beat you there. And so I would race with all my school bags and books and everything. And
wow,
it was just the thrill of riding a bike. And for me, a bike was freedom. And for most teenagers, freedom is maybe getting your car and getting your driver's license. And for me, it was just biking.
Well, I love that. I mean, we're talking about you being a teenager. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, you're 25, so it's kind of...
It wasn't that. I could still remember.
I think about it, I'm like, hang on, 10 years ago, I was kind of towards the end of my career then. And it's like, wow, you were just picking up the bike. And it seems to me that you just, like you just described, you love being outdoors, and it's not training, it's play, and it's an escape. Is it still the same now, even at this professional level, or is there sometimes it feels like work?
Yeah, I mean, maybe 10 or 15% of the time it's work, but I try to keep it still play and fun, and I try to get the right training mates that we can keep it that way too. And my favorite thing is still, let's go ride 6, 7, 8 hours, and let's get 3 or 4 of my buddies, and we can just stop. We can tell stories all day. It's to me, it's the best way to socialize and to see things. And I always laugh at all the tourists, in the fall, driving their cars up to Estes Park and stopping and seeing the leaves. And I'm like, I'm doing that tour 3 days a week.
Yeah.
The tour that people fly out here and sit in their car all day to see, and I got to do it by bike. I
know we're pretty fortunate here in Boulder with some of the amazing climbs we have. Big Thompson, Left Hand Canyon, the South St. Vrain is one of my favorites.
Yeah, Tyler Butterfield was telling me the other day. He was telling me about how you got the Big Thompson loop to some crazy fast time. How you used to just rip the loop.
For me, it wasn't about. I just wanted to get it done. I think I was a racer, and I actually didn't enjoy training terribly much. So if I had to do 40K ride or whatever, I just used to go out the door and get it done, and start my clock, no warm up, fly down Utica past your house onto Broadway, go. And obviously it wasn't the smartest training. I wasn't near your level in terms of the power that you can generate on the bike, but it was the way I enjoyed training, I guess, just getting it done. And so I used to just fly up Big Thompson or whatever, blow right through Estes, keep going. I'm not stopping for drinks. Go. It wasn't always smart. If you ask Jan Frodeno, he's always shaking his head at the way I trained. But I've learned a lot since, and especially because of this podcast, talking to all you guys, it's like, I could have done things a bit better myself.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as time goes on, right, the coaching now at this, it's just so advanced and so methodical, and I guess it's fun to just give it to a coach, and that way I just kind of do what I say. But what I like about Ryan and my coaching program is it's like I don't have to stare at the computer, at the bike computer, and be well aware of what I'm doing every 15 seconds every single day. A lot of it's just, like we said, easy. You learn, easy is somewhat easy, but not super easy, and hard is, let's go hard. This should be painful. This should hurt. And my favorite thing on the bike is still maybe how you trained. I love nothing more than, just get right out on the roads and whatever it is, 2-hour tempo, just do the 2-hour tempo and get it done. And then, cruise down from Estes. And then, my favorite session, which is the Crowe session, is just time trialing home from Lions. Ride up, time trial home from Lions. It's still pretty simple if you want to be good.
I was just chatting to Crowe yesterday, actually, and we were talking about some of our favorite workouts. As you get older, you do these remember whens, and he was saying, it was always that, time trial home, but he'd go to Monarch. Is it Monarch Road?
Yep,
and he'd do his 12 1-mile repeats off the bike, and that was his bread and butter. And he said, I can't get over how many thousands of miles he's probably run there just doing those 1-mile repeats. So are you doing that kind of stuff?
Off the bike, right now off the bike, I'm trying to run a lot of these hills here for St. George. But just off feel more or less. And then I guess with Ryan's training, it's a slightly different because we do our run days Wednesday and Sunday. And I know a lot of people, they do more like run days Tuesday, Thursday, and then still Sunday. But for us, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday are ride days. So I'm doing 3 bigger rides a week. And then those all just have like a 4 or 5 mile run off, which is nothing super crazy. And then every now and then, I'm racing every 3 weeks right now. So I don't need that many. No. I guess on Saturday I did, 13.1 miles straight off the bike at 5:30 pace. So I guess that's the brick workout to get me ready for Collins Cup.
Yeah, that's done and dusted. That's some incredible work. Stepping back again, you found the passion for the sport, but was there a moment where you decided, actually, I should give this a really good crack?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can remember it as clear as day. And it was right after finishing my first Ironman. So I guess I didn't quite give you the whole story. So I then started getting into cross country running, and I quit football. My football coach actually pulled me over one day after practice, and he was like, man, you can run and you never get tired. Our football team sucks, which was true. We lost like every single game.
That's what the coach said?
The coach said it to me. He's like, and you work really hard, and you've got what it takes, and our team just sucks even though you're showing up all the time. And he's like, you should go run. You'd be a better runner than a football player.
Really? Oh, what a great... Thank you, coach. What was his name?
His name was Coach Santino. I can't remember his
Well, thank you for directing Sam into our sport. That's great.
Exactly. Yeah. And he lives just up in Dakota Ridge. So I've actually seen him a few times. And yeah, I did. A few years ago, I saw him and I just said, hey, thank you so much, because it changed the trajectory of my life. And at that point I was really into football, and I was lifting heavy weights 5 days a week, and then in the spring I would try and run. So I'm doing two completely different things with my body. I'm lifting weights. I'm getting up to, I mean, I was actually heavier as a sophomore in high school than I am now.
Yeah. What were you? What'd you get up to?
I was like I'm the same weight. So I was like 180 back then.
But you were.
But I was 16 years old. Which
is,
know, so I was a pretty big boy for 16, and now I weigh 175. So
I think 180 is about 80 kilograms.
Yeah, just over 81 kilos.
I just like to convert on this show. Yeah. But, wow. And then so after that, then what happened?
Yeah. So then I started doing, that was then when I started switching. I would still ski in the winters, but then I started doing track and cross country both seasons. So I started to run a little bit more year round, and then I would do all the road racing in the summer. So I sort of started to be doing two of the sports. And then I wanted to run in college my junior year. So I started getting somewhat serious about running, started to, actually learn what training was. And, if you want to be good at something, you need to do it year round. And because I used to never run in the winter.
Did you do college here in Boulder?
I did. I went to CU. But I didn't make the running team. And here's what happened. My senior year of high school, skiing, I jumped off a cliff and I tore my MCL. I've been training. It was the first year I trained all year. I trained, from the summer, and then I logged my miles all the way through the winter. And then 2 weeks before the first meet, tore my MCL.
Was that, was Rudy Vonberg on that team, or was he?
This was still high school.
Oh, this is high school.
I'm still
you did
high
that.
school.
Yeah.
So
that
Rudy would
affected.
have been at college then. So then, I hadn't met the times needed yet to run in college. And, with the torn MCL, I was out for basically the whole season. And at that point, and this will tell you something about my family. My dad, this was 2014. I'm 18 years old. My dad said, "Why don't you do Ironman Boulder as your rehab?"
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad. And most kids would say, "Dad, shut up. What are you saying? That's a crazy, crazy, ridiculous idea." And for some reason, I was hooked on it. The race was 15 weeks away.
So what year was that?
And I was in crutches. This was 2014.
Is that the first year of Boulder?
Yep, first year. That's the other reason I wanted to do it. He goes, "It's your first year. You're graduating high school. Then you're going off to college. Yeah. Why don't you do this as your rehab and like a rite of passage into adulthood?" And I was so hooked. And most people would say, "Dad, that's the craziest thing. I've never even done a triathlon." But I just thought this is the most amazing idea. And I was in crutches at the time. I couldn't do anything. But this idea was born, and maybe it was born because I couldn't do anything, and I just dreamed of like, wow, this would be the most amazing thing, and that's how it got started. The first thing you can do is bike with a knee brace on. So I started doing that on the stationary, and then the next thing you can do is actually swim with a pull buoy. So then swimming was born, and then finally you can run. And I still get goosebumps just thinking about it, because that summer then I graduated high school. I was working a full-time job. And so I woke up at like 4:45 every day to start training for this thing. And I would just go out and I would just ride my bike for 2 hours. And then after work, and I was actually working manual labor. I was building trails around here. So I'd be in the hot sun all day. And then after, I would either go swim or run, or sometimes both. Sometimes I'd go to rally at 8 at night. And it was just like, all of a sudden this dream and passion was born. And then when it got to race week, I started thinking, what are some good times for this? And I just quickly computed what I think I could do. I never ridden 112 miles or done a marathon. I just said, I think I can swim an hour. I think I can bike 4 hours and 45 minutes. And I think I can run 3:30. And I said, okay, well, that all adds up to under 9:30. So I said, great, I think I should go under 9:30. And people would ask, and I said, under 9:30. And they go, that's like really, really good for an Ironman. And I said, no, it can't be that good. The pros, I've looked at the pros, they go 8 hours. And anyways, I went out and I went 9:27, and I won my age group by it was 55 minutes.
Oh, it's like you were born to do this.
Completely. And
not only that, it's like your parents understand you. They know you. They know how you tick. I think, you said totally. Your mom's a therapist and that, but they kind of knew that to me is parental intuition. You have it with your kids. You can see who they're meant to be to some degree. And it was incredible steering from your dad to or your mum as well, I guess, to point it out that this might be the best avenue for it.
Totally.
Wow.
And it was just amazing. And I remember, because I do remember my high school self, and I was searching a lot, and I was trying to find I just want to be really good at something. I didn't care what it would be. I could be good at anything. And I played the drums a lot then, and I would play the drums 2 hours a day. And I was doing football and I wanted to do something with that. And I was skiing, and what can I be? Something that's professional. And I just had this very clear vision of, I never wanted to be normal, if that makes sense. And maybe that's coming from a triplet, but I've always felt, oh, I need to do something in my life that's different than the average path. And then finally this Ironman pops up, and it's like, I remember I finished and I just started crying. You know, I went and I found a quiet moment and I just started crying. And I thought to myself, like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And I was like, I have to change anything I'd ever thought, oh, this is what I'm going to do. You know, I wanted to be a personal trainer or a physical therapist and deal with athletes in some type of a way. But I just thought, this is it. This is what I'm doing.
Do you think, I mean, there's something there, because it resonates, what you're saying really resonates with me as well. Do you think there's something in our DNA which is like just driven to do something great? Do you think it's a DNA level? What is it? I mean, you're one of triplets, like you just mentioned. Are your siblings driven in that same way, or is it just you? Or?
I think so. I mean, yeah, I think it's, if we're competitive, we don't really care what we do. We just need to be the best at it. And especially as a triplet, like everyone's always comparing and, oh, your brothers are better at this and your brothers are better at this. And it's like, no, I'm going to be better than them at triathlon. Let me tell you.
I'm going to pick one thing. Well, it's actually three things, and I'm going to be better than them. Exactly. What do they do? Just sidetracking.
Just like that, we all picked our own path. So one is a musician. If you could call it a professional musician. And
of course.
He's now doing music teaching as well. And then one's a Wall Street banker.
Wow. Yeah. Well, your parents have got to be so proud of them. I mean, it sounds like you've had some great parents, and well done to them, because I think that's fantastic to have three different avenues where you're all just pursuing your dreams. I think it's fantastic. Mate, what do you think of this beer that we're drinking?
It's delicious, I gotta say.
Yeah, this is the Athletic Brewing. It's the Hazy IPA. I know, I've just started really enjoying these. Anyway.
Yeah, it's the best because it actually tastes like real beer.
It's like you're having a beer, but you're not having a beer. I love it.
Yeah. Can drink 6 a day, every day.
We can actually have a conversation on this show without getting too sidetracked and whacked out. I think that's great. So your typical week of training, you've kind of gone through that a little bit. Has it changed much over the years? And when did you join Ryan as your coach? And was that a dramatic change?
Yeah. So my training plan has changed a lot over the years, and my approach to it as well. And finally now, really last year was when I started to know, like, this is what my body needs and this is what works for me. And I started with Ryan about a year before that, but it just takes time to figure it all out. And for a while I coached myself, and I mean, I would just talk to people and sort of get ideas, but I used to train way too hard. I used to basically buy into that belief of being a training hero, and that one amazing day is what gets you ready for a race. And so I would just kill myself. Like, I look back at 2018, and I trained substantially harder in 2018 than I do now, even though now I'm a completely different athlete. But my run paces and my bike paces would be the same in training, but then I'd show up at a race and go 45 minutes slower than I go now. And so, yeah, it's been really actually more learning to put the limit on the training rather than like...
Interesting. Well, that's what a good coach does. I really think a good coach is not there to motivate. They're actually there to pull the reins in. You know, it's like...
Exactly.
You want to be you need to have a motivated athlete. But what made you choose Ryan? Did you interview a few coaches, or how did you find Ryan? How did that work out?
Yeah, so we can thank Ben Hoffman for that one. One of the not the shootout, that's the Tucson ride, at the bus stop ride here.
Oh, yeah.
And I showed up, and I had actually just raced an Ironman 5 days ago, and I was just going to go for an easy spin, but lo and behold, I went out at 5. I raced an Ironman 5 days ago, and I was like, I'm going to ride for 30 minutes. So I brought no water. And then the bus stop comes by me on 36, and I'm like, nuh-uh, I'm not letting these guys.
So the bus stop ride, so everybody knows, what time does it leave? About 5 o'clock?
Yeah, 5:05.
5:05 from Broadway and 36 here in Boulder, and basically shoots out of town down to Lyons, does a lollipop loop, and comes back, and it's basically an all-out ride.
Exactly. Unfortunately, it's actually gotten a little slower now over the last 2 years. Less of the professionals are going and stuff, but back then it was blazing fast, and they come past me, and I'm like, I'm getting on this thing, and I'm giving it to them, and my legs actually feel pretty good, even though I raced an Ironman 5 days ago. And lo and behold, with like 10K to go, I make a solo break.
And this is your 30-minute easy ride, right?
This is my 30-minute easy ride. I have no nutrition, I have no bottles, and it's like 95 degrees out.
Yeah.
And I stay away for the whole solo break. And anyways, Ben Hoffman's on that ride, and he comes up to me after, and he says something like, when we all regroup, "Oh, no water for a 2-hour ride?" And I said something like, oh, well, I was only planning on riding 30 minutes easy. And actually then the next day he somehow got my number, or left me a message on Instagram, and he said, hey, like, I know this is going to be a lot to think about, but I'd love to invite you to come train and stay with me at Tucson and help me get ready for Kona.
Good on him.
Yeah. And I mean, I get that message from him, and I'm like this first year pro, and I'm like, oh my God, Ben Hoffman. I mean, the first time I spoke with him on the phone, I'm like, I mean, I'm pooping my pants basically. Yeah. So nervous. I'm like, I'm going to go stay with this guy. So anyways, I went and I stayed with him for 2 weeks. And that's really when my training changed to a whole nother level, because you see how it's one thing to train with a top level professional for one session. And you see like, oh, if it's a hard session, you think, wow, they must train like this all the time. And if it's an easy session, you maybe think, wow, this guy doesn't train hard at all. But when you see them every day, you see how they eat, you see how they sleep, you just see how they set up their life. And so I got the firsthand viewpoint, and Ryan Bolton came and stayed with him as well during that. So we started talking.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And that was the September of 2018. Unfortunately, that's when Ben got his stress fracture. I was actually there with him, which taught me a whole nother thing about being a professional, that you're going to have setbacks. And when you pour your life into something, like at that point, I always thought, oh, if you get injured, it's a somewhat big deal, but what's the big deal? I'll just go party or something. Like that's what I thought. But then you see someone who's dedicated a whole year to Kona, and they get a stress fracture, and
it's your livelihood, right?
It's your livelihood, and it's everything. And it was so devastating for him. And, but he was a real champion. And instead of being negative, he was like, he actually took those 2 weeks. He got it about halfway through. So there was another week. He was like, I can't do anything for myself. My season's over, but I basically want to show everything I can to you to make you the best professional possible. And, so that changed everything. And that's when I started working with Ryan. And,
the importance of mentors is really quite incredible, isn't it? Just to have someone like Ben, and I guess when you get a bit more older, you'll become the guy that reaches out to help some young guy. And there's this passing of the torch, of the mantle, if you like, within the sport. Like everybody gets their turn. And my brother said it to me once. He said, Greg, it's like you get to rent being the best for a moment.
Totally.
And then you pass it over, and you don't want to relinquish it. You want to stay there for as long as you can. But it is an interesting way of looking at it, that we all try and get there. And if we can try and help a young, professional, just give them some guidance, even if they can just see everything that you need to do to become great, every kind of professional step. I mean,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
phenomenal.
And I think maybe that's because, unlike football or soccer or any of these other sports, like, you don't get selected by some national team or put onto some NCAA football team. Like, it's an individual sport.
You're on your own.
We're all kind of out there just guessing for a while. And then I think it really does take someone from the top level to show you, oh, this is what it's done. And I mean, I would probably still have been guessing for a while if he hadn't had done that for me,
And then you've also got some other great guys on your team now. Tyler Butterfield, you do a fair bit of training with Tyler.
Yes, Tyler is just... And this year he's helped me a lot. I mean, Tyler's a little different. He coaches himself, which is also a great idea. But Tyler is in an incredibly unique position in that I would say he's trained with more of the top professionals than anyone else ever, because he's trained with everyone. Chris McCormack, yourself, Crowy, like he's literally trained with everyone. And he has like a photographic memory of people's sessions. And I mean, just the other day, and if Jan listens to this, he might be upset. He goes, oh yeah, I trained with Jan in 2015. And he goes, I liked this bike session he did. I'm doing this session today. And I'm like, I mean, it's just amazing. He knows all these sessions of different athletes and when they did them and why they did them. And it's like, and so he can just give all sorts of advice with that. And and he's still been a huge mentor this year. And I mean, sometimes he sees me and he's like, I mean, right now he's telling me, he's like, you're ahead of the curve. Like, don't kill yourself. He's like, don't burn the house down. Just keep putting a little bit of wood on and you're going to be fine for St. George, Well,
brilliant advice, isn't it? It's like, because we do get excited. You get, I'm here and now I'm going to win everything. And it's like, whoa. You've got some time. Just keep, one of the things I've kind of always said to some of the younger athletes is, just try and look for about 10% improvement each year. Yeah, you don't have to get 50% in 1 year. Just chisel away, and I say at the start of this show, every episode, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. And it's that mindset of this is an endurance sport where consistency is the name of the game, right? Just keep turning up, like you said, adding a little bit to the fire, but don't
Burn the house down.
Burn the house down. I like that. Yeah, no, that's fantastic, mate. What about, you've said earlier, some of the sponsors and things. Who have you got now that have signed up? Any new sponsors or anything you can talk about, or things still in the works?
Still in the works.
Yeah.
I'll tell you after we get off the air.
All right. Fair enough. But you've got some brands behind you already, though, right?
Yeah, I've got some great brands behind me, and I've been lucky enough to have those. I mean, Envy is my title sponsor for this year, and they've really helped me. American-made wheels, and I'm almost certainly staying with them, and
they should keep you. Yeah, it's a good investment.
And actually, a great company is Miraflora. They're a Boulder CBD company.
I've seen that on your Instagram stories. What is it, Miraflora?
Yeah, Miraflora. And so they have a farm right out where we all run, right out by the Grange on those dirt roads. And that was a product actually I was extremely skeptical about, and like, oh, sure, I'll take the money and I may not use it. And it's actually totally changed my life. Just in terms of a recovery standpoint, it's the muscle balm, and they have these like Epsom salt bath bombs I do like 3 times a week, and it just helps me sleep and be more relaxed and just more of like a wholesome lifestyle, and as opposed to training and having my stress hormone so high, like it just brings those down like 5 or 10% after training, which is enough to then like actually recover.
Have you got an affiliate with them? People can look it up and buy through you, or?
Yeah, I do.
All right, let's
I can remember.
Let's do a quick self. Yeah. Well, I can put it in the show notes too, but if you can remember it, let us know.
It's yo 20.
There we go. Yo 20. Go to Miraflora,
and it'll get
put that in the code to get you 20% off, and then I'm sure Sam will get a little kickback there. So you'll be helping him out a little bit as well. So that's pretty cool. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, good man. And so what else for your health? Have you got a team of bodywork people? Are you using Marcus Mejias as your massage therapist? Is everybody in Boulder?
No, I'm not actually. The younger generation hasn't quite gotten in. But I remember, listening to your podcast actually about a year ago, and you said something crazy about the amount you would spend on massage therapy. And a rule I'm trying to take with myself now is like 10% of whatever I make in a year, I'm putting back in myself. So whatever that is, that way it's like, if I keep getting better, then I can keep allowing myself to keep getting better. It's
exactly the way to do it. And it's easier to look at bigger chunks. We used to do, for Laura and I combined, our combined income, we would do 15% to body work and 15% to travel.
Okay.
And what that meant was, for long trips overseas, we would upgrade to business or whatever, and we wouldn't think about it. You know what I mean? Because it's easy if you just put that
investing in yourself.
Yes,
exactly.
and it's the business of investing in yourself. Sure, you could go invest in the stock market or houses or whatever else, but we invested in ourselves, and I think in terms of return on investment, it worked out really well to do it that. Most of the time, we didn't hit that 15%, but it was nice to know it was there if you needed it. So you didn't question if you got to fly to Australia for the World Champs. Don't question doing it right. We still shopped around and tried to find deals and upgrades and use points and all that nonsense. But I'm really glad to hear you doing that. It's a really good professional way to look at it. And like you said, that 10% will grow, and suddenly it'll be like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, I mean, a year ago, I used to be just way too cheap about massage. Part of it, I didn't have the money.
If you don't have the money, you can't do it.
So you have to be careful in a way. But now it's like, I mean, Boulder Race Week, for example, I've been training very hard. I only got a 6-day taper because I'm training for St. George and Kona and Collins Cup. And I was like, how can I maximize this 6-day taper? And I said, I'm getting 3 massages race week. And I did. I got 3 massages, and I mean, that cost me $450, for 3 massages for the week basically. And I'm kind of going, that's a lot.
That's an expensive massage, actually. We need to talk.
Maybe it wasn't quite that. I guess it's 90, so it's 270.
Yeah. But still,
270.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That would be an expensive massage.
I'll introduce you to some people. Are you getting some dry needling?
I've just done it once. An introduction would be great. I haven't.
Right across the lake from you, Christine Bell. Literally walk home. She's right there. And she's needled all that. Dry needling has been amazing. It hurts a bit, especially when you're tired. Little pricks, but she's very, very good at it. And so definitely someone. I've got some introductions for you. We got to build your team here.
Perfect.
We got to.
There's always things I can do better.
Of course, no.
Funny, the only time I dry needled was the week before St. George, because I had been training so hard. I mean, I can remember my right quad was like completely
not letting go
up, and I was like, okay, I got to do this dry needling, and we saw how that race went. So it's and the only time I could get in was like 10 o'clock at night. So I went in and did this dry needling at like 10 p.m. You have to invest back in yourself. And as a young athlete, I'm still learning all the better ways, and to an extent, still be building that team around me.
Well, your team will build the better you go. I mean, Mark Allen, when he was on this show, I was asking him about his team, and he said, yeah, when I started out, I didn't have anybody. It was amazing how everybody wants to jump on board when you start getting better and better, right? And that's partly where you are now. I mean, like I said, 4th in the world rankings. Mate, pinch yourself. I mean, is this...
Sometimes it's a dream, man. I mean, sometimes it's... hard to believe, actually.
Mate, we could chat for hours because I enjoy this. I really do. And I think we'll have you on again in the show, soon. But before I let you go, I've got quite a few sort of one-off questions here that I'd like to cover.
Perfect.
If we could do
We've
that.
been talking for a while, huh?
It's like an hour 10 in, and sometimes I'm like, I hope I don't mind just sitting and chatting, but it does go quick, doesn't it? And
super quick.
People are like, Greg, you have these long conversation shows. I said, but a 20-minute, half-hour show doesn't do justice to some of the people that I have on. Even an hour and a half with you and I would love to do 3 hours if people would be willing to listen, because I think we just start to get deeper and deeper and we get to know a bit more about the person.
Totally. Well, I'll be honest, that's exactly what I like about your show is you get to learn a whole different side of the athletes you interview. And it's one thing, if you listen to a 30-minute podcast, which I've done hundreds of, normally you only cover the same questions.
Yeah.
But when I listen to your podcast of Jan or Sebi or all these guys, it's like you get beyond the surface level and you can find out ways like, oh, that's what makes that athlete tick, or, whoa, he just gave a great piece of advice. And I mean, I've gotten mentors from your show and I don't even know if they know it. So it's been great.
Oh, that's brilliant. It means the world to me that you would say that. And for me, I'm just delighted and feel so honored and privileged that you guys would come and chat with me. And I love a conversation and I love how you guys tick. But let's do 2 big questions here. All right, here we go. So what is one tip you have for people on just how to optimize their performance or their life, if there's one kind of area that you think you could help?
Yeah, my biggest tip would be view triathlon as a lifestyle and not just as a training. And so if you really want to be good at it, you don't just get your training done and then eat fast food and forget about it. If you really want to be good, it's your entire life is built up around it. And I know even if you're an age grouper, you have work and all that, but it's a wholesome and it's an active lifestyle, and that's ingrained in everything you do, and that's how you'll be the best. That's
a brilliant answer, and I agree with you. Yeah. Look after your bodies, guys. Reinvest and don't overdo just the one thing of training so hard, right? I mean,
exactly.
That's brilliant. All right, and I like this one because it's always a bit different. If you could sit and have a coffee with one living person, who would it be and why?
Oh, man.
Actually, it doesn't have to be a living person. It can just be, if you could sit and have a coffee with anybody in the world.
Probably George Washington. I guess that's just my American heritage coming through.
Wow, I like that. I was thinking Julius Caesar, but okay, George Washington. That's awesome. I love it. All right, now are you up for doing some 15 just fun rapid fire questions with me? Okay, this is just a bit fun. If you don't know the answer, you can just say pass. All right. Start with an easy one. What's your favorite family vacation?
Crested Butte, where I always go.
Gosh, that's a beautiful part of the world, isn't it? Up there. Love it. All right. Here's a good one. Who would you dream of having a head-to-head duel with to the finish at the Kona Ironman World Championships?
Jan Frodeno. And I might not get it at Kona, but maybe in 2 weeks at the Collins
Cup. You will. I can't wait. That'll be brilliant. All right. What would you change about yourself if you could?
Oh, I wish I could have started swimming a little earlier.
Yeah, fair enough. You've still got plenty of time, though. All right. Here's one. Out of 10, how cool would you say you are?
Oh, 6.
Yeah, 6?
Yeah.
But you play the drums and you played football and now you're a professional triathlete. Come on.
I might have been an 8 back then, and now I'm down 2 points.
Yeah, you've let your drum playing go.
Yeah, my biceps have gotten smaller too.
All right. Outside of triathlon, if you could choose to do anything, what would it be?
Oh, I think I'd probably want to be a professional skier.
Nice. Still a professional athlete, though. I like that. Yeah. And I've seen you on this is a good one for you because I've seen you do chores on your Instagram posts and stuff. Which would you rather do? Wash dishes, mow the lawn, clean the bathroom, or vacuum the house?
Do the dishes. I don't know. I like doing the dishes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we're only 400 meters away, so you're welcome to come up every evening. All right, here we go. Here we are. Who would you want to play you in a movie of your life to date?
I'd want to have Brad Pitt.
Nice. Just go straight to the top.
Yeah. Never settle, right?
It was almost like you were ready for that. You've thought about it. Yeah. All right. Okay, here's what's a favorite dinner you could prepare?
Salmon, rice, broccoli.
All right. Okay, now, if you could have any 3 guests in the entire world, not including family, who would you invite to that dinner?
Ooh. I want to have Sebastian Kienle and Lionel Sanders.
Nice. And you got one more.
Oh.
You can have 3.
Jan Frodeno too. Let's just throw that in. I'll just sit there and listen to them. And
That's great. I like that. Just your mates, your peers, your mates, all of that. I like that. If you had a time machine, would you travel to the future or back to the past?
I'd go to the future. I'd go to the future.
Yeah? How far?
I don't know, 50 years.
Yeah, just enough. Yeah. Just a little taster. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to speak to animals?
Speak to animals.
Yeah, me too. Because you can always get an app for talking to everybody else. Okay, this is the most important question of the day. Which decade of music is best?
1970s.
Nice. Is there a favorite? Do you have some favorite people out of there? Neil Diamond, John Denver?
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin's
nice. My favorite. Talking Heads, I love.
Oh, Talking Heads, you're a man. Yes.
The Who. I always want to put these musics on my Instagram stories and stuff. These artists, and I always get messages like, "Dude, that's not hip anymore." And I'm like, "No, this music will always be hip."
You know, our 3-year-old daughter, because all we have in the car is I either put it on Talking Heads radio on Pandora or Neil Diamond radio, and so all she gets is this, or some Australian bands like In Excess and Hoodoo Gurus. I put on these artists, so now she knows. I quiz her all the time. Who's this? And she'll be like, Talking Heads, stay up late. Like, good girl. And
teaching her well.
And she knows the Cars. I think the Cars and Talking Heads are probably 2 of the best bands to ever come out of the US, to be honest. I think they're the most underrated US bands. I think.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, yeah, especially for me, the Talking Heads. I just love the rhythm and
unbelievable. Yeah,
and the singing and just the whole vocals and
You and I, mate, I've got Talking Heads playing upstairs. This is great. And when we're done with this show, we can go up and listen to music together. Here's a fun one. Can a vegetarian eat animal crackers?
Yes. If their morality is okay with it.
Greatest movie of all time?
This is not actually the greatest movie of all time, but I love Batman: The Dark Knight.
Nice. That's all right.
I love it.
Yeah.
The Joker, the acting in it is amazing.
Yeah.
Either that or The Gladiator. I love The Gladiator too.
Gladiator is a great movie. Yeah, I agree. Okay. If you won $100 million in the lottery, how would you spend it?
Oh, I would probably, I would just keep doing what I'm doing every day, to be honest. I guess I would invest it and create wealth for the kids. And then maybe I would have no sponsors at all and just keep racing triathlon.
Yeah. Nobody else to tell me how to be or what to do. I like that. All right, mate, this has been brilliant. What's next for you? What do you got coming up? Collins Cup, 70.3 Worlds, Kona, and then that's it? You have a break or you're going to do something?
Yeah, we'll see if I can get a podium at Kona, top 3 and qualify for Kona the following year.
Yeah.
I'll be done.
Otherwise,
that's
maybe
probably a stretch. Otherwise, I'll probably try and get the Kona qualification done before the end of the year.
Well, you got a big championship season is here, everybody.
It's the time of the year for triathlon to be, to be a fan and to be an athlete. And
Sam Long, I feel like you're hitting your straps right at the right time, mate. You're doing everything right. You seem like you're in a good headspace. You've got a good team around you.
Yeah, it's all coming together. And
yeah.
So, I can't wait to see what I did. I mean, in Nice in 2019, it was my first World Championships as a professional, and I did atrocious. I did absolutely terrible, and I actually hung up the poster in my wall to remind me of what it takes to perform at the top level. So I don't look at that poster and say like, oh, wow, that was so great. I look at that poster every morning, just right as I walk out of my door, and it for 2 years. And it's to remind me like, if you want to be a world-class athlete, get to work.
Stay consistent, do the right work.
Yep. And so hopefully now I can put up another poster and at least be somewhat better than 34th place or whatever lousy position I was.
Well, Sam, I can't thank you enough, mate. Spending your recovery day coming up the road here and sitting and just chatting with me and just your journey and your stories. And I feel like we're just at the start of it. So I hope you can become a regular on my show, because I think we're going to need you as a regular, because I think there's a lot of great performances coming in your future. So, mate, really appreciate you coming up and sharing it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it again, Greg.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And look, everybody, thank you all for listening and all sharing the show and all your feedback. And you can find all the timestamps and coupon codes and show notes and everything at bennettendurance.com/media. All right, Sam, thanks, mate. That was fantastic.
All right, cheers. We'll finish the beers up on our own.
All right, cheers, mate.
Thanks a lot for listening. If you enjoyed the show, your support would truly be appreciated. You can visit the Patreon page, or you can subscribe with your podcast app of choice. Don't miss the next episode, so subscribe and be notified. For show notes, if you want to know more, please visit bennettendurance.com. I'm Phil Liggett, and on behalf of Greg Bennett, here's to the next time, and I hope you will join Greg again very soon.